Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you Game 4 in a best of 5 series between NightEnd and Underdark, Game 4 taking place on Blistering Sands. NightEnd spawning on the north side of the map as the blue Protoss player, meanwhile Underdark spawning over here on the south side of the map as the red Protoss player. So once again, Protoss versus Protoss here on Blistering Sands should be a good matchup in this Game 4 series. So currently NightEnd leading 2-1, or sorry, Underdark currently leading 2-1 here as I continue to read messages on my phone. I guarantee you they are StarCraft 2 related. I will let you guys know about it when I can make some announcements. Anyways, we now see Underdark moving out with an early probe and now going to be doing some scouting, making sure to see if there's any sort of cheese or any proxy play. Underdark taking the first 2 games of the series. Meanwhile, NightEnd was able to come back in the 3rd game of the series with some beautiful play on Lost Temple. If you have not seen it already, I highly suggest you do, as those 2 probes were able to just pass each other by in just a moment, and now Underdark will be able to see exactly what NightEnd is doing. Throwing up the production tab, we should be seeing a gateway coming in from NightEnd and a gateway coming in from Underdark in just a moment. There we go, NightEnd already getting the gateway, delaying his probe production just a little bit. Meanwhile, Underdark delaying his gateway just a little bit in order to keep up with that probe production. So both sides just trying to mine out as much as possible. We do see NightEnd trying to lay waste to this one pylon here. That pylon, however, should have no problems whatsoever as both sides are getting assimilators. So Underdark and NightEnd now getting assimilators. We do see the probe of Underdark just continuing to wander around the inside of the base and now going to start to deal damage towards this one pylon here. That pylon going to suffer some damage, but nothing too critical as those shields, 200 shields, plenty of shields to absorb the little particle beam of that one probe. Back here, we now see 3 probes going into the assimilator, so it should be a pretty standard gateway into a cybernetics core. So gateway into a cybernetics core followed by perhaps a 2-gate strategy with a robotics facility, a 4-gate. Anything can really happen here on this map. Really excited to see what's going to be happening as Underdark now throwing and getting an assimilator onto the Vespene Geyser, making sure that NightEnd does not block his own Vespene Geyser. We'll see if Underdark tries to block his Vespene Geyser. No, he does not. He does not block the Vespene Geyser as the probe now wandering around on the inside of the base. We'll see what's going to be happening. Kind of surprised that it is not being laid down, or another Vespene Geyser is not being laid down just quite yet. Will the probe be able to come in? No, not going to come in. We see that NightEnd was faking to go for an assimilator there just in case that Underdark was trying to block him. One of the reasons why gas is so important in StarCraft 2 is it involves all of your tech units, and even though there are 2 gas at every single base, you need gas at a much higher rate than in StarCraft 1. So anyways, back over here, we now see double gas being laid down as a probe now wandering around on the inside of the field continually, and that probe will be able to make it out. A Stalker now trying to give chase. That Stalker does have a faster movement speed, but I do not think it will be able to catch up significantly as that Stalker needs to stop in order to attack another probe, able to pass through those units right there as that probe was on pathing, and that second probe also on pathing as well. So the Underdark now trying to give waste, and now in comes another Stalker. So NightEnd getting a couple free shots onto the Stalker, and that Stalker will be taking critical damage. So nicely done. Down to 64 hit points and what, losing 16 shields or 16 hit points that will never be recovered in this game. One Stalker now activating this Onaga Watchtower as a probe, perhaps. Yeah, another probe activating this one. And now NightEnd going to be very aggressive. Is NightEnd going to move out with these Stalkers to try to take down this one destructible backdoor rocks? And it looks as that is the case. So one of the things that you have to be careful about here on Blistering Sands is this backdoor. Backdoors do take a lot of damage by these destructible rocks, and now the 3 Stalkers coming into play to try to shoot down these rocks here. More and more Stalkers now just continuing to be massed up. We do see a couple sentries here, and now those sentries now going to make their way towards this back door. So the back door already down to 1100 hit points nearly, and now these Stalkers will be unable to deal any damage back towards these Stalkers over here. So now we see Underdark trying to warp in more and more units here, getting some additional Stalkers as these rocks nearly completely destroyed. So 4 Stalkers here. We do see enough sentries, and now 1 Stalker now perhaps going to try to walk up the front door, and this is going to be a little bit of a problem as Underdark has 1's probe in this position. We should be seeing some additional units being warped in here, and down goes that probe, and I'm so sorry about that. And down goes that probe as this fight continues. So let me pause this game for just 1 second to make sure that doesn't happen again. Alright, back to the game. So now Stalker's continuing, leaving these backdoor rocks at 207 hit points, and now just going to leave this there. So we do see a couple Stalkers here. I'm surprised that there is not a proxy pylon, perhaps being warped in right here in order to get reinforcements here. Just leaving these rocks at 207 hit points is a very curious strategy, something that will be pressing on Underdark's mind for quite some time, realizing that he has to be careful of this backdoor rocks being cleared out in just a moment. So now we see units now making their way out, couple sentries and stalkers now making their way out across the field, quickly being spotted by the rest of the army. We do see one probe here able to see this army now coming up, and this one stalker will be able to see this stalker retreating as those stalkers now retreat. Now, however, this probe perhaps going to try to lay a pylon, a proxy pylon onto the north side, and then do a little bit of pressure of his own. We do see stalkers gaining up here, and will these stalkers be able to get any free shots on units as they try to walk up this ramp? I do not see any units on this over here, and now one stalker trying to move up, however quickly taking some quick points of damage. We need to get another sentry here, and now this probe sitting here not warping in anything, not getting any sort of pylon as a group of stalkers, and now an observer for NightEnd. So NightEnd will be able to see this army sitting outside his base. He should be able to guess that it is about the same size as his own army, and Underdark, if he is a very good Protoss player, has to know that there is an observer right there moving around. I thought there was a probe inside the base, but I think that probe was taken down, yeah, by the stalker. So the stalker was able to shoot that down, and now Underdark with a very aggressive proxy pylon now putting pressure on the back door. So these backdoor rocks will now be taking some damage of their own. We do see Immortals here, and now chrono boosting a second observer. So a second observer now being chrono boosted, as well as these backdoor rocks will be laid to waste in just a moment. Stalkers now sitting here waiting to get some damage onto those zealots. Zealots taking some points of damage and now being forced to pull back. So now front door and back door need to be very careful. One observer sitting here, and now these units now going to perhaps walk up this ramp once again. Will they be able to get caught? Yes, they're going to quickly get caught here. So Stalkers now engaging Immortals, Guardian Shields being laid down, and now some force fields as well. So Underdark now being forced to fight in a very tight position. Army-wise, 1950 versus 1275, as Underdark moving into a very aggressive stance. However, the reinforcements for NightEnd are coming very quickly. So now being forced to use Blink in order to get a well-timed escape. NightEnd does not have Blink being researched, so all of these stalkers will be able to retreat. But the key question is going to be, is it going to be enough at this stage? As those stalkers now make their way back over here, all of NightEnd needs to do is perhaps put some pressure on these rocks, and once those rocks are done, he will be able to charge up that back door very easily. This one proxy pylon will get taken down very quickly. Now going to take down this pylon over here, and as this pylon is taken down, no additional reinforcements, and now NightEnd going to simply walk up this ramp. And now, however, seeing that Underdark has a large army here, does not decide to push through just quite yet. We do see some stalkers here not able to see past this brush, as one observer in the air able to gain sight onto this high ground and see exactly what Underdark is doing. Underdark now moving around back and forth, trying to see what exactly NightEnd is doing. Wants to make sure that all of these units are able to get up that choke point without a problem. And now Underdark sees that there are units up here, and in comes another observer to gain sight once again, and down goes another pylon. And now we see Underdark severely supply locked, sitting at 64 over 66. Sorry, just got another pylon in. However, unable to warp in this critical immortal. Finally able to warp in that unit. We do see stalkers, and a lot of them for NightEnd. I'm surprised that we do not see a Twilight Council, just because Stalker Blink would be so powerful at this stage. We do have a robotics facility now training up some additional immortals, and our robotics bay will be completed, so Colossi will be joining the army in just a moment. So Colossi should be joining in just a second, and now one poor probe trying to activate a tower will not be able to, as it gets shot down there. We do see a Colossi now being trained and chrono boosted, as NightEnd will be able to continue to macro up more and more units. So we now see Stalkers and Immortals with the Sentry here. Double activation of these Zelnaga Watchtowers. So NightEnd with a significant advantage at this stage, able to see more than half of the map just with a couple of units. We now see Underdark still not taking his natural expansion, as NightEnd is. So NightEnd trying to make sure that he can stay in this game for the long term. And once this expansion is up, if Underdark does not establish his own expansion, he will be severely hurting. However, that expansion will take quite some time in order for it to pay for itself. Perhaps some transferring of some probes, as we see another chrono boost on that robotics facility in order to try to speed up production on that Colossi. So that Colossi should be popping out in just a moment. So 2 Colossi Zealots now making their way over here. 1 Observer still out in the air, and I'm surprised that Underdark has not trained up an Observer yet. That Observer would be critical in gaining sight onto this Observer and shoot it out of the sky, because NightEnd knows exactly what Underdark is doing about 70% of the time. He can expand in confidence, knowing that that expansion should be able to get established in just a mere matter of moments, as it will take a little bit more time for these Stalkers and Immortals to push out. 1 Observer sitting here. The Observer, however, not moving up that back door, and now perhaps going to try to move up this front door. And now we see Colossi Immortals continuing to move out, and then 1 Stalker quickly getting taken down there. And now Underdark losing a very, very fast unit. All of these units now being forced to pull back. Immortals only move at a movement speed of 2.25 compared to the Colossus of 2.25 and the Stalkers 2.91. So those Stalkers are in fact a little bit faster. I'm a little surprised that Underdark is not trying to blink away with his Stalkers in order to gain some distance. We see Underdark now establishing his natural expansion as well. However, we already see NightEnd trying to saturate that expansion. So both sides now playing Sim StarCraft, trying to get up a very, very large army. NightEnd wants to win this game with a 1 fail scoop with a very large army, perhaps trying to catch Underdark out of position. We now see some Immortals. Underdark trying to ensure that his army is very, very well scattered just in case they try to come up the center point. However, because of this Observer here, this one group of Stalkers and Colossi may be able to stay together as a ball and simply take down these units as though they were separated. So Stalkers here, these units over here off to the very north will take quite some time, and these units are now moving in very, very quickly. So now continuing to push, these units trying to pull back, both sides engaging, more Stalkers coming in from the low ground here, and both sides continuing to fight back and forth. Stalkers continuing to blow past each other. However, NightEnd with that Colossi and Stalker army able to focus down a lot of these Immortals, and Underdark says GG. And now, as Underdark loses, this will force a Game 5 in this best of 5 series between Underdark and NightEnd. Stay tuned for Game 5 in this series. It will be posted on Machinima. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It should be posted sometime Wednesday, October 13th in the afternoon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll make sure to put a link right here so that you guys can quickly find it.